Every story we have looked at so far had an editor, someone who took an older tale, softened it, and put their name to the safer version, and we could usually find them, and the year they did it, and sometimes the single sentence they changed. This one is different, because underneath this story there is no older story, there is an event, something that actually happened in a real town on a date you can name, and the town has never been able to explain it. There is a street in that town, in northern Germany, where you are not allowed to play music. Not by custom, by rule. No drums, no singing, no dancing. If a wedding procession passes through it, the band stops, walks the length of the street in silence, and begins again at the far end. It is called Bungelosenstraße, the street without drums, and it is the street where they were last seen. The date is the 26th of June, 1284. The number is 130. You know the story that grew over it. A piper in colored clothes, a plague of rats, a fee the town refused to pay, and a revenge taken on the children. Here is the part that is not in the version you know. The rats do not appear in any account for roughly 300 years. What the town of Hameln actually recorded was that its children were taken on a specific day, in a specific year, and it gave no reason at all. Most English speakers get this story from a poem. Robert Browning published The Pied Piper of Hamelin in 1842. He wrote it for the young son of a friend, to amuse a boy who was ill. And it is very good, brisk, funny, and grim in the right places. It is also the reason almost everyone believes this is a story about a contract dispute. In Browning, the sequence is clean. The town is overrun with rats. The piper offers to remove them. The council agrees, a price of 1,000 guilders. He pipes the rats into the river Weser, and they drown. Then the council refuses to pay, and he pipes the children into a mountainside instead. Cause, effect, moral. Pay your debts. It is a tidy story, and nearly all of it is a later addition. The rats, the fee, the negotiation, the revenge, none of that is in the material Hameln itself produced. Every one of those elements arrives centuries after the event they claim to explain. What Hameln recorded was much shorter and much worse. The earliest record was not written, it was a window. A stained glass window stood in Hameln's market church from around the year 1300, within living memory of the event. It showed a piper in colored clothes and a group of children. It carried an inscription. The window was destroyed in 1660. We know it existed because people who saw it described it more than once over 3 centuries. The best surviving description comes from a manuscript written around 1440 in the town of Lüneburg, roughly 150 years after the event. It records what the window said, and what it says is this. In the year 1284, on the day of Saints John and Paul, the 26th of June, a piper dressed in many colors led away 130 children, born in Hameln, and they were lost at the place of execution near the hills. Read that again for what is missing. No rats, no plague, no fee, no dispute, no revenge, no motive of any kind. A man arrived, the children followed him, and they did not come back. That is the entire original account, and it does not read like a legend. It reads like a record. Legends do not usually give you a precise day. They do not usually give you a count. The number 130 is not a round number, not a symbolic one, not a number chosen for effect. It is the number you get when somebody has actually counted. There is more. Hameln appears to have dated things from it. Entries survive in which the town measures time from the loss. So many years since our children departed. A town does not build a calendar around a fairy tale. There is also a record of a chorus book belonging to a Hameln church official, said to have contained a Latin account of the event written by his own grandmother. The book is gone. The reference to it is not. So when do the rats arrive? The earliest known written appearance of the rat-catching episode is from the mid-1500s, nearly 3 centuries after 1284. By 1602, the town had a building we now call the Rattenfänger House, the rat-catcher's house, carrying an inscription about the departure of the children. The rats had attached themselves permanently. Then Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm collected it and published it in 1816 in their Deutsche Sagen, German legends. Not the fairy tale collection, the legend collection. Material they believed described real events. The Grimms treated Hameln as history. Browning turned it into a nursery poem 26 years later, and the poem is what survived. So what happened? Nobody knows. That is the honest answer, and it is worth saying plainly before we go through the possibilities, because every one of them is a hypothesis, and not one of them is proven. But some of them are much better than others. Start with the one most historians now take seriously. The children were not taken. They were recruited. The 13th century is the height of the Ostsiedlung, the eastward settlement. Landholders in what is now Poland, Pomerania, Moravia, and the Baltic were short of people, and they sent agents west to get them. These agents were called locators. They were professionals. They traveled. They made a pitch. They offered land and freedoms unavailable at home, and they left with recruits. This explains several things at once. It explains a well-dressed stranger arriving in a town and leaving with young people. It explains why they went willingly. Nobody in the account is dragged. It explains the direction of travel, out through the eastern gate. And it explains the word children. Medieval German usage does not restrict it to infants. The children of Hameln can mean the town's young people, its sons and daughters, the exact demographic a recruiter would want. There is also evidence in the ground, of a sort. A German linguist named Jürgen Udolf examined surnames across the settlement regions to the east, looking for clusters of names that trace to the Hameln area. He found them, concentrated in specific districts, at a density he argued is hard to explain by chance. It is not proof. Onomastics rarely is. But it is the only line of evidence in this entire case that points anywhere at all. Now the alternatives, briefly, because none should be dismissed. A children's crusade. Youth movements did sweep parts of Europe in this period, and they did end in mass disappearance. The problem is the date. The best documented episodes are 70 years earlier. A dancing plague. Outbreaks of compulsive dancing are genuinely documented in medieval Europe, sometimes involving hundreds of people, sometimes ending in deaths. The piper fits this uncomfortably well. But the account describes an orderly departure, not a frenzy. A landslide or a sinkhole in the hills outside the town, which would account for the phrase about being lost near the hills, and for the absence of bodies. An epidemic, with the piper as a personification of death. This is the most common scholarly reading of the figure himself, and it explains the imagery. It does not explain the specific date, the specific count, or why the town treated it as a departure rather than a death. Here is what none of them fully explains. If the children left to settle in the East, that is not a tragedy. It is emigration. Why does the town mark it for 700 years? Why is the memory one of loss rather than of a venture? And if it was disease or disaster, why the piper at all? Why insert a person into it? There is a reading that holds both together, and it is uncomfortable. The children may have left willingly, on a promise, and the town may have learned later what became of them. Recruitment in this period was not gentle, and it was not always honest. 130 young people who walk out of a gate and are never heard from again are lost whether or not they went of their own accord. That would explain a record that names no villain, gives no motive, and simply states that they were lost. Which brings us to the rats and why they were added. A story about a town that lost its children for reasons nobody wrote down is not a story you can tell. It has no shape. It does not resolve. There is nothing to learn from it, and nothing to do with it except feel it. A story about a town that cheated a contractor and paid a terrible price is a completely different object. It has a cause, it has a moral, it has a villain, and it assigns blame, and crucially, the blame lands on the adults, not on chance. That version can be repeated, it can be taught, it can be told to children. So over 300 years, the town acquired one. And notice what the rats do to the arithmetic. They make the loss deserved. 130 children, taken for no reason, is unbearable. 130 children taken because the council was greedy is survivable, because it means it could have been prevented, and that it will not happen to you, provided you pay your debts. The rats are not an embellishment. They are a consolation. Browning finished the job in 1842. After him, the story belongs to children's literature, and the date drops out of it entirely. Ask most people when the Pied Piper happened, and they will tell you it did not happen. It is a fairy tale. Hameln has never quite agreed. The town still runs the story every summer. The Rattenfänger house is still there, and the street is still silent. The rats are fiction. The fee is fiction. The mountainside is fiction. The date is not. The count is not. The window was real, and the town built its calendar around what it showed. Something took 130 young people out of a small German town on a summer day in the 13th century, and Hameln has spent 700 years unable to say what. That is the story. The piper was added to give it a shape. Next time, an ending nobody kept. Pinocchio, the real one, the original, does not become a real boy. In the first version the author printed, the puppet is hanged from an oak tree by 2 thieves and left there to die. And the word the author wrote underneath it was, "The end." He meant it. He only brought Pinocchio back because his readers would not forgive him. That is next time. If you want the rest of these, subscribe.